Hi, the following Pilates session will take you through a number of exercises working around each area of the body. It is aimed at a beginner level, so make sure that you have covered the Pilates fundamentals before taking part, for the likes of setting up the muscular contractions and also neutral spine. As long as you feel well enough to take part, just read the following disclaimer that will show up on screen before commencing, just to make sure that you're safe to continue for today. But otherwise, have fun, work hard, and if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you. For this session, you will need a Pilates or yoga mat and a small pillow if you prefer for whenever lying down on your back for certain moves. So let's begin. Get yourself comfortably into child's pose, down onto your hands and knees and lower your hips towards your heels. Reach the fingers out long in front and just rest in this position. If it feels more comfortable, you can have the knees apart or together. One may feel a little bit more claustrophobic than the other, so maybe taking the knees wide will allow you to rest and relax that a little bit more. Now in that position, take a few breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And with each breath, feel the breath moving all the way down towards the lower back and feel the ribs expand. And then as you breathe out, allow the body to rest down. Now walk your hands to the right hand side, walking both hands long away from you as you reach to the side. As you reach, think about lengthening the body still, and again take a couple of breaths while you're there. And then walk the hands across back through centre and towards the left hand side. Again, taking those few breaths and allowing the body to relax and rest while you feel the stretch down the right hand side of the body. Now return to the midline and we're going to move into the mini cat crawl. So rounding the back, drawing the abdomen in and moving forwards. When you get towards the box press up position with the shoulders over the hands, then allow the body to move into the happy cat, arching the back, lifting the tailbone, softening through the elbows and sweeping backwards towards the heels. Continue this movement using the changing of the pelvic tilt to change the direction of the movement. And then reverse, so going forwards through the happy cat position with the arch in the back, tailbone lifted, and then scoop the abdominals in as you roll backwards towards child's pose. And again, repeat a few times, feeling that flow through the spine. Rest it back in child's pose, just get a sense of that length, and then grow tall back into the box position, shoulders over hands. Now reposition the legs in front into seated neutral. Sitting up nice and tall through the spine on the sit bones, and then introduce that J curve, tucking the tailbone under just a little bit to create that curve for the rolling down of the spine towards the floor. At this point, you may want to use the pillow just to support the head if you feel that's a better alignment for you. And then place the body into that base position. We're going to move so that the heels are in line with the sit bones, lengthen from the tailbone to the top of the head, and then move through your pelvic tilts. Find where neutral is between your two tilts, and then reach the fingers down towards the end of the mat to lengthen the shoulders. Now moving into a modified 100 for tabletop legs. Take an in-breath, and as you breathe out, lifting one leg at a time into that 90-degree position, knees above hips. Heels just slightly higher than the knees. You can check neutral spine by placing the hands underneath the spine, just to check that you're still in neutral, and that small space is there under the low back. We're going to hold this position for 10 breath cycles. You do not have to hold it for the full 10 if that's not where you feel you want to be. Continue to relax through the arms, resting the body. Only using the muscles required to steady the position, so using those deep and involved muscles in through the inner core. Maybe drawing in through the pelvic floor muscles, pulling up inside. Maybe it's the TA, transversus abdominis, drawing in a little bit belly button, pulling in as if it's coming towards the floor. but only the minimal amount of effort that you know that you can hold neutral spine and hold it steady. Now at the end of your breaths, on an out breath, float one leg down at a time to reduce the load rather than both legs at a time. Recheck your base position on the floor, and then slowly we're going to take it into shoulder bridge, C curve only to the halfway point. So you're coming into that posterior tilt, tucking the tailbone under. So you imprint the spine against the floor lightly, and then rolling the spine bone by bone up until about the middle of the back. So around about lower than bra strap level. Repeat this just a couple of times, and then remove the pillow so that we're able to come up to a full range with no obstruction in the neck. The full range will take you up to about the middle of the shoulder blade, still in contact with the floor, and able to keep the neck nice and long. So this is a sequential movement, rolling the spine bone at a time, one by one, moving up through that C curve to your highest point to reach a ski slope where you'll see a straight line up through from the shoulders to the hips to the knees. You can check this on the way through your movement by looking at the hips at the highest point to see if they're level and feeling if the weight on each feet is around the same. Now we're using the core to try to pull the pubic bone upwards. You will feel that the glutes do engage on this movement, but only after the core has been involved and the hips start to lift from the floor. But the emphasis is on using the deep inner core muscles. Hopefully trying to take it out of the hamstrings and the back of the thighs, so you're not overworking in these areas. Again, we're going to repeat this movement. We had 2 initial warm-up movements, the soft curve initially up to the middle of the back, and we will complete with a further 8 movements in total on these shoulder bridges. Again, as we go through, there's lots of points to continually check, to use your internal focus to feel what's happening. Arms are relaxed, shoulders are long, and the neck is long. The neck should be relaxed. You feel that movement just flowing through, out breath to lift and move the spine. In breath at either end, at the top or at the bottom, in neutral spine. And then using again the out breath to slowly roll the spine down one bone at a time, returning the spine to neutral at the end. At the end, just give the knees a hug, drawing them in one at a time on the out breath. And again, you can rock the knees from side to side, all aimed at just releasing the lower back. Then place the right foot over the left knee to come into a figure of 4 stretch for your hip. You can apply some gentle pressure to the middle of the thigh. And if that's where you belong, you can stay there and rest in that position, or you can reach the hands through, clasping around the left thigh to draw the stretch in just that little bit deeper, if that's where it feels right for you. No pain, just a pulling, and relax into it. When we're ready, place the leg down, and we're going to repeat for the left side. So the left foot across the right knee, and again that may be enough with maybe even a gentle pressure on the thigh, but if you need to reach further, reach the hands through to the right thigh and draw in. Try to relax the upper body. Again, wait with a breath or two, trying to relax that position. So now we're going to reset for side kicks. So lengthen out the right leg and the right arm up overhead, and we're going to align the body into a neutral base position. This is a straight line as if you're lying on a beam, and find where it's comfortable for you. Depending on how your body's shaped, you may be one hip stacked directly above the other, or it may be slightly in front or behind. Find where you're at your longest and check your waistline to see, are you lifted through the waist or are you sinking? If the muscles are engaged, there should be a small lift at the waist. Now when you're ready, the hand resting on your side. On your next out breath, you can float the top leg up. And again, once you find that you're balanced in that position, then you can use another breath to float the bottom leg up to meet the top leg. Each of these positions are optional. It may be enough for you just to rest the hand on the thigh with both legs on the floor, or maybe just to maintain the top leg lifted. All of these movements should be pain-free. You can recheck the waistline at any point just to see if you're still engaging through the deep inner core to keep the waistline lifted so that we don't give in this area. The hand on the floor should be thumb up and relaxed, not assisting the movement, and the neck should be relaxed. You can place a pillow between the arm and the ear if preferred. But keep lengthening through the body, lengthen from the hips to the heels or the balls of the feet, and lengthen all the way up through your spine, using those deep inner core muscles to help keep you steady. We're holding for a full 10 breath cycles, whichever position that you aim for, whether you're changing position on the way through or just aiming for one position. Slow breaths in your own time. Now slowly on the out breath, relax the legs down and just draw the knees up into the recovery position. Your arm can be placed wherever it feels comfortable. Just take a moment to congratulate yourself if you held that nice and steady. Otherwise, you know it's an area to work on in the future. Now reposition yourself lying face down. We're going to come into our prone neutral base position. Now once we're there, rest the head onto the hands, making a diamond, and with the feet about hip width apart, lengthen through the body position and go through your pelvic tilts. Again, just checking that you're not using the bottom, not using the muscles in the bottom, the glutes, to engage the contraction in the pelvic tilt. Just using the deep inner core muscles, and you can place your hands in just to check if the belly button is pulling away from the floor. This can be done through pelvic floor or through the TA muscle pulling in. Now this movement, Swan Dive, is very, very small. We want to make sure that as we're lifting, it's a long lift through the body. An out breath to lift, it's small because the thoracic spine area is stiff for most people. So we're lengthening slowly, reaching the head to the wall in front, not using the arms at all to help leave them relaxed. And we're not using the muscles in through the legs, so encourage the heels outside if the toes are together, and using just the upper back muscles. Now we can progress this if that's where you're ready to go, keeping the hands in contact for a diamond press. Every time you're lifting, it's an out breath again to lift, and an in-breath to return back to the floor. Again, you're trying as much as possible not to use any of the muscles through the legs. Now that the upper body is a little bit more weighted with the weight of the arms, you may find it very difficult to switch the leg muscles off, but work hard to try to lengthen through the upper body so that neutral spine stays in place, but also those deep inner core muscles are involved in the lift. Now just recheck your position again, resetting base. And then we're coming into prone swimming alternate legs. So an in-breath to prepare, and then as you breathe out, lifting the right leg long and straight, and then returning the leg back down on the in-breath. The aim is that as you lift the leg, there's no change in through the lower back. The upper body is not tense and the neck is relaxed, so that the movement of hip extension with the leg as it lifts does not cause the lower back to come into a forward pelvic tilt. So you should definitely feel that the lower back is long and the core muscles are drawing in. So if you imagine an ice cube or a hot coal underneath the belly button, you're not squashing into these. It's 5 movements on each side, continuing with our thread of 10 movements in total. Keeping the focus on length as you lift. Now when you finish from there, we're going to scoop the belly button in as you press through the floor with the hands under the shoulders to push you back towards child's pose. It may feel that you need to press the knees into the floor to help lift your body up. This is an optional rest position just to allow the back to lengthen out after lying face down. Take a breath there and then slowly bring the legs in front. We're going to reset into seated neutral. And we're going to roll back through that C curve again to lie down. So initiate that J curve, little tuck under and a bone by bone, rolling the body towards the floor. As we get there, lengthen the left side of the body and we're going to roll into position again for a side kick. Set up the neutral base position, long through that lower side of the body, and checking around the waist just to make sure that you're in neutral and the core is engaged so that there's that little gap between you and the floor at the waistline. Find where's right for you, and when you're ready you can place that top arm onto the hip, and our aim then is, if we can, to lift that top leg on an out breath to set it around hip height, and then to slowly lift the bottom leg on another out breath to reset to hold. Now in that position again, it is optional. Whatever you did on the right side of the body, aim to match it on the left. So don't aim for a level higher, otherwise that can create an imbalance. We're aiming to stay in the same position on each side. The body should be relaxed other than those muscles around the core, the outer hip on the top leg and the inner thigh on the bottom leg. Neck relaxed, hand on the floor, not doing very much again, nice and relaxed. Aiming for length from the hips towards the feet and lengthening from the tailbone to the top of the head. Holding steady again, that aim for 10 breath cycles, whichever position that you're in. And when you reach the end of those 10 breaths, just relax the body down into the recovery position. And then we're going to use the arms to press you up from a side sitting position and then into front seated neutral. Again, nice and tall up onto your sit bones so you feel lengthened through the top of the head, and just check that the ribs are drawn in so the back is long. And we're coming into the roll up using straight arms. So we're using the hands on the back of the thighs as a control point. The feet are hip width apart, so are the knees, and that little J curve is being introduced to lower the tailbone forwards towards the heels. As you lower further, you'll feel the lower parts of the pelvis moving up to the rim of the pelvis and the lower back starting to come into contact, depending on the length of your arms. Now as we go through, it's using maybe an in-breath to go back and out-breath to come forwards, but if you want an extra little challenge for a hold, use an in-breath at the top and an out-breath for movement. An in-breath at the bottom, and again, use an out-breath for movement. The aim is that you keep the C curve as you travel, but at the end of the movement, when you come up into seated neutral, you should lift nice and tall to come back into a neutral pelvis. The aim is not to do a strong tuck under, it is just a small curve, just to engage the lower abdominals, the deep lower muscles in the core below the belly button, to keep the lower back muscles active. As we lengthen in between each movement, just get a sense that those ribs don't open out. We still feel the full impact on the front line of the body of these muscles engaging. Again, the aim is for 10 movements. Don't feel that you have to complete all 10. Don't feel you have to move all the way back to straight arms. Choose your level. Now we're going to move into a cross-legged seated neutral position. So you can draw the legs in close to your centre, again making sure that you're able to sit up tall in this position. You could use a few yoga blocks underneath your sit bones to sit on if this would make it feel easier. Again, tall and seated neutral, making sure that the back is long and straight up through the top of the head, and check that the ribs are not opening out. So starting with the right leg in front of the left, or vice versa, moving in with spine twist with the hands in prayer position in contact with the chest bone so that the nose is aligned above the fingers. We are just using the waistline contraction here. So when you're moving, an out breath to rotate away from centre and an in breath to draw back in. So I want you to feel this in the waistline and maybe around the spine on the back for all those rotatories and the obliques working hard. And as you draw back into centre, each time right and then left. If you feel that leg option for you isn't quite where you want to be, you've also got an option for a diamond leg position. So you can bring the heels out further in front and with the soles of the feet together. Again, whichever leg option you use, you want to make sure you're able to stay in seated neutral. Long from the sit bones up through the spine. No curvature, no J curves, just long. Equal weight on both sit bones. And as you finish the movement, 5 to each side, just draw the knees in, give them a hug. And we're going to take it into butterfly, so just draw the soles of the feet in towards your centre and together, and just give a gentle rock. Just flap your wings in the butterfly. And just take a moment to relax. And we're going to move into a stretch, taking hold of the ankles. You can use your elbows if you need to, as light pressure on the inner thighs to hold that stretch. If you do press down through the upper arms, lengthen through the spine. A few breaths and a hold. And then transitioning onto our hands and knees, we're going to move into a Spiderman bent leg stretch. So with the shoulders over the hands, step the right leg forward to the outside of the right hand and allow the hips to move forwards and sink into position. And we're just going to move between these. We're not going to hold, we're going to use it as a dynamic stretch, that as you move from one position to the next, coming back through box each time, resetting, and then again, taking the right leg to the outside of the right hand, keep the spine long, lengthen through to the head, and again, hips forward. If you choose to increase the length of the stretch, you can straighten the back leg up. Now again, as you reset, coming towards that left side, left foot towards the outside of the left hand, and then you're going to stretch through that back leg, taking the knee off the floor, squeezing the leg straight as the hips sink forwards, and then slowly moving back into your even position on hands and knees, and then slowly take the weight back to child's pose again, just to rest for a few breaths. And try to release any tightnesses that feel that they may have developed in the body through this workout. And then slowly take the hands towards the left hand side, lengthen the body again through that right side so you feel the stretch drawing through underneath the shoulder blade, down the side ribs, and maybe even into the waist. Take a breath, and in your own time, walk the hands back through center and then across to the right hand side. And again, as you feel that stretch coming in on the left side of the body with a few breaths to relax, walk the hands back to center and then walk your hands backwards to bring you up into your neutral position in seated. Well done. I hope you enjoyed your practice and thank you for watching. There will be more videos coming soon.